Happy Monday, everyone. Doug here. Really excited for this week's bonus interview. It is so rad. I had somebody reach out to me and they're like, hey, you want to interview a rock star? And it was pretty awesome. His name's Bryan. He's a musician, a songwriter, composer, plays keyboard, guitar, vocals, and he's currently in the band Survivor, who has hits like Eye of the Tiger, Burning Heart, and the title track from Karate Kid Part 1. And he was actually in the movie. So before we get in that, I gotta play the new bonus theme by my buddy TJ. Hit that theme.
When you're looking for more and there's no place to go, it's a sequels only bonus show. It's not about sequels this time, you know, it's a sequels only bonus show. Doug and his pals, well, they know what to do, talking about movies without a part two. Looking for more and there's no place to go, it's a sequels only bonus show. Talking to stars with Doug did soul, it's a sequels only bonus show. Sequels only bonus show.
Hey there. So I alluded to it just before. This is the first rock star that I've interviewed. I know Bill Sadler, he plays banjo, and a few of the people I interviewed, they do play instruments. But man, this guy is a true rock and roller. Grew up in LA, he talked about playing all of the amazing places, the Viper Room, Whiskey Go-Go, like all those names that you know. And man, dude, so cool that I was able to talk to him. And he does a lot of jingles for a lot of TV shows. He composes for movies and TV shows too, and series. He does it all, and he was really cool. He looked like a rock star, and you'll see it if you're watching on the video, and you'll see that, which is pretty rad. So without further ado, here's my first rock star, Bryan. This is awesome, dude.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. That's cool. That's so cool that April reached out. And dude, some of the cool stuff that you worked on is pretty rad.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Grew up in the 80s.
LA, and you grew up in LA, right?
Oh, yeah. Born and raised.
That's so cool. I was just talking to an LA guy. Do you ever see Monster Squad?
The Monster Squad? No.
Yeah, it was like it came out in 87. It was about like these four kids going against like all the old school Universal monsters, like the Wolfman and Dracula.
I think it's LA kid. It vaguely rings a bell. Yeah. It was like a low budget type of.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was just talking to him. He was an LA guy, and it's like I've talked to so many different folks, like actors. You're the first, like, pretty much full musician. I've interviewed actors and stuff that are musicians too.
Yeah, I looked at your roster, and it looks like it's quite a bit of actors. So
yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, some people that play instruments, like William Sadler, he plays a little bit of banjo. Like that's
cool.
Yeah, dude.
Like the Steve Martin thing.
Yes. So how did it all start for you? Like growing up in LA, is it just something you're thrown into?
Well, I was singing from a pretty young age. About 10, 11, 12 years old, I discovered that I had a voice, a big voice in this little package of this big voice. And I got a lot of attention from it. So it was, let me take one of these off. That's better. Okay. I got these in-ears on.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes they don't always sound great when they're both in there. Anyway, so I was singing in LA, just doing, being a kid and learning how to sing and enjoying, my parents' records and just kind of discovering music. And that's how it kind of all started for me. I didn't like wake up one day and said, I want to be like, Paul McCartney or Elton John or something like that. It just it gradually built into a life that I grew into as a really young, just discovering talents that I may have had at that age. It was pretty organic,
What were some of the records that you remember? What was like some of the early ones that you sang?
Oh my God. Everything from Crime of the Century, Supertramp,
nice.
The Knack. It goes all over the place. Hotel California, Kansas. I mean, I was singing "Carry On My Wayward Son"
Nice.
at 11 years old with the guitar, banging that out. Anything that had a really good vocal, I enjoyed. I mean, that was my thing. It was just I wanted to sing. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know how that was going to turn into a music for me. I just knew that this was fun. I liked the attention I was getting, and then I realized very, very quickly, pretty young, that if I was going to do this, I got to stop singing other people's songs, or at least learn how to sing some of my own, because maybe I have something I should be doing. So that's when the instruments started to come into play. A lot of musicians, it's the other way around. They get taught to play piano at like some ridiculous young age, and old age. That's how they start. But for me, it was the opposite. I just wanted to be able to accompany myself and write songs. And so I naturally had to learn how to play an instrument in my mind to do that. So that's how that all came about.
What was the first instrument that you started playing?
It was guitar. Actually, that's not true. I had drum lessons when I was really young, probably 6, 7 years old. And I was probably too young to have them. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But so I was always pretty musical. What's interesting is my family's not particularly musical. I mean, they don't play instruments, or it wasn't that I had an older brother or younger brother or whatever that I could learn from. It was just me. I just discovered something I really that spoke to me, I guess, And so guitar was my first instrument, and it was the obvious choice, considering it's lightweight and relatively easy to bang out a few chords and figure out what I'm doing. But I was taking years of. By that time, I was junior high and early high school. I was taking years of theory classes and counterpoint and all kinds of different classical training musically, but not with an instrument, just music. So I could read and write music. I just never applied it to an instrument.
Wow.
So by the time I was playing guitar, I knew what I was playing musically. But for some reason, the guitar really didn't kind of resonate with me. And there was a piano in the house, and that piano was always supposed to be for my sister. Don't touch the piano. That's her thing. And I'm like, she's not touching the piano. So I finally gave up. About 15 years old, I just kept looking at the piano. I had a lot of information. I understood music by that time. I mean, I could, look at a piece of music, tell you what's going on with it. I couldn't play it because I didn't know an instrument. I learned it from a singing point of view, but I understood 4-part harmonies. I understood chorales and minuets and things like that. Things that a piano player would normally have learned by now. I learned them sort of virtually, without the aid of an instrument. And so I just decided to sit down at the piano, and it was love at first sight. When it finally sat down, I was like, "Oh my God, this is the missing link for me." This is it. So that's where everything started to explode. It was like, once I finally figured out I could play the piano, everything musically just kind of took me on a trajectory that I hadn't been able to understand prior to that. Kind of opened up my world.
So wasn't it at 15 you played on the Merv Griffin Show?
Yeah, actually, it was a little bit. I think I was 16 or 17 by then.
Yeah.
82. Yeah, I guess I was 16. Yeah.
But how does that happen from that moment when you first sit down at a piano?
Yeah.
Say a year and a half, 2 years later. How does that? That's pretty.
It's pretty crazy. I know. there were some events during those early years that, when I look back, I mean, I don't know how I didn't get whiplash. It was amazing. I mean, holy crap. What happened was like I said, I had this passion to sing and get in front of people. And it's interesting because at that age, I didn't even know why. I can totally explain it now. I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. But at that age, I had this drive. And so I played every club you could think of that would let me in. my parents would bring me in, have me go on stage, and then hustle me out the door because, it's a bar. So I would do these open mic nights. And I did a couple. There was one called The Hungry Tiger. I don't know. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm in Jersey. But I interview a lot of people in LA, and I work with an actor helping him put his memoirs together. And a lot of the places you had on there, he like told me he used to do like open mic or go there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So yeah.
There was a restaurant chain called The Hungry Tiger. I haven't said those words in a long time. And that was a place where you unlike today, everything's open mic. You got YouTube, you've got down the street, you got coffee bars. Then it was kind of a new thing where you could get up and just sing. So I would go and sign up and have my dad bring me or whatever, and I would do my 2 songs, and I'd go home. There was a gentleman there, Mark Lemkin was his name. He ended up being I found out he was the road manager for Seals and Crofts.
Oh, wow.
And he produced a variety show at the Roxy and another one at the Laugh Stop. So two clubs.
Yeah.
And it was a children's show that was every Sunday. These parents could sign their kids up, and they'd file in and have these big birthday parties. I guess the Roxy needed money. I don't know what the deal was, but you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me because I got this gig. It didn't pay. It wasn't you're going to get paid. You're going to get promotion. And boy, he was right. I mean, I didn't care. I was just an opportunity to get up in front of an audience every week. I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. And there were a lot of people that were a lot of actors, a lot of stage moms and their kids. I was one of the older ones, and I ended up writing music for some of these kids. And,
oh, wow.
I was older. I was 17, 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I considered myself to be old. So that tells you the kind of how young some of these kids were. Yeah. And but it was an opportunity to perform every week, and I guess it got a little bit of notoriety in the local news. And one of the casting agents for a national talk show, Merv Griffin, came down to check it out, and they wanted to do a segment on the Merv Griffin Show of these kids that are performing like professionals every week at these well-known places. And so I got picked, I got asked if I wanted to appear on the show to sing a song, as if I had an album out or something, I mean, I hadn't done anything, but I had songs, and I begged these people, let me do my songs. They wouldn't let me sing my own song. I had to pick a song from a list of pre-licensed crap that they insisted. But it was cool. I managed to find songs I liked, so I ended up, picking something decent, I guess. But that was how that happened. It was just performing and being seen, and then asked to. It was just sort of the sign of the times. It was kind of a new thing, and it was kind of newsworthy, I guess. And so they did this segment, and it was popular at the time.
That's awesome. No, it's so cool. The fact that at that young of an age, you're on the piano, you're on that. So from there, I know you're in LA, so it's pretty much LA. You're going to act somehow. How did that go how did you even get into acting? Did somebody approach you or?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it all came from the Merv Griffin.
Wow.
Because, you picked the right, there's so many events, so many strange events in my life. I'm sure a lot of people's lives are like that. But in my case, that particular event hinged on a lot of doors that sort of swung open unexpectedly. I wasn't really ready to play piano in front of people. I was a singer. I was really strong at being a front man and a singer. So it wasn't so much the keyboards was a thing yet. It was just something I was doing. When I did the Merv Griffin Show, I got back to the green room, and there was I remember there was a card and some flowers or something, and it was some manager. that apparently had managed some of these other kids. I mean, there were people in the show that went on, like a guy named Mark Price, who used to be on the Michael J. Fox series.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was what was his name in the show? He was
he his buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can't remember his name for some. I used to be friends with him years and years ago.
Yeah.
Robbie Rist from Brady Bunch was in this.
Yeah.
There were a ton of like semi kind of known young actors that weren't really known, but
yeah,
some of them went on to do some great things. Some of them you never heard from them again. And this particular manager guy was kind of involved in that. I guess they saw something marketable with me. I mean, I was what, 16, 17 years old, roughly in that neighborhood. And I could still play 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I look really young. I actually had hair. So,
you did. Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't look like this, but, anyway, so I think that's what kind of got them interested. The singing, obviously they thought I was talented, but this guy wanted to push me into commercials and things. And I'm like, why? Well, that's not what I do. And, I got a lot of advice from people that are like, no, this is an opportunity. You take what you can get, it's Hollywood, just go with it. And I was young and impressionable. And I said, all right, whatever. I wasn't really that interested in acting. It never was something that I've never really done anything in my life that was something, if I wasn't passionate about it or resonate with me in some way, I didn't pursue it. It just, I'm not that kind of a person that would just do something because it had a dollar sign attached to it or some other more superficial reason. And even at 16 years old, I kind of sensed that this felt phony to me, even though that was kind of immature, maybe a little naive because maybe I closed doors and didn't mean to, So that's how that happened. He got me an agent, and they were sending me on commercials, and I never got a single commercial because I was a horrible actor. Actually, it wasn't so much I was a horrible actor. It's just commercials. I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how biting into this cheeseburger is going to make me a rock star. That was my attitude at 15 years old, So
you're like singing while you're eating the burger, and the director's like, kid, just say the line.
That's exactly. I went into a couple of interviews and I'm looking at these lines, and I didn't know how to emotionalize. Is that a word? Emotionalize? I didn't know how to turn them into something. I knew how I could sing it. And a couple times I said, let me just sing this. Because, that's what I felt like I could do well.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was being kind of pushed in a direction I wasn't sure was right for me. Who knows? But I pushed my agency, the agency that I was with, which was a commercial agency. They had a small division for a theatrical division. And I begged them to send me out on, like actual parts. And I don't know what I was thinking. I had no acting history. I had years of music training by this time, but I didn't know a thing about how to pick up a script and memorize it and, do what actors do. And I felt a little bit like a fish out of water, but they sent me on a couple interviews and I was getting them. So it was a different time period, though. You got to remember, it was the 80s. And in those days, similar to like horror films kind of were cheap and easy to make, are cheap and easy to make nowadays, so to speak. Well, back then it was the coming of age films for like Porky's and Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Breakfast Club and all that stuff. And so I went out on all that stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
I would meet a lot of these people that became sort of the Rat Pack people before anyone knew who they were. 10 Soldiers. Well, actually, what's the name of that movie? The Red Dawn. It was called.
Oh yeah.
It was called 10 Soldiers when I.
It was.
Yeah, that was the working title, and I went out for that, and there was everybody. I mean, there was everyone from Swayze to C. Thomas Howell. I mean, they were all there. I don't know any of them. I wasn't a pop culture guy. I didn't follow things like that. I was a musician. I just felt kind of like, I don't know, in a different space. But all those people were there. I did a scene with C. Thomas Howell. He got it. I didn't. It was John Milius, I think, was the director, and anyway, it became Red Dawn. But
Yeah.
I have a ton of those stories. I went on all that stuff. Didn't get most of them, obviously, but I got a couple. Obviously, Karate Kid, which led me there, which was interesting because Karate Kid was not the first movie I was in, although it came out before the first movie I was in. So chronologically, it came later. First movie I was in was called Hot Moves.
Yeah, which is like Porky's.
Yeah. It's like if Porky's had a like a really shitty brother, it would be Hot Moves. It was I don't know. I think they made it for 20 cents. It was one of those. I got to work.
Yeah.
I got in front of a camera. I'll never forget those first scenes. I just showed up on set and all right, go. There was no director practically. I mean, it was like, I don't know who was making this movie, but that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
It was scary.
Cool that you had that experience, that it was kind of like you were doing whatever you want. Because if you had like a Stalin director, it could have been like the worst experience ever. So maybe it was good that they were super lax.
I think yes and no. I think I wanted direction.
Okay.
I was scared, I mean, I didn't show it, but I was like, wow, here I am. I have no idea what I'm doing and I have nobody to help me. And it wasn't like I was, crying myself to sleep over it. It just felt awkward. I think if I had a little bit more training, I guess, or some preparation, I may have had something to fall back on and felt a little more secure. The truth of the matter is that it didn't matter. It wasn't like this was Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It just go there and be a kid. That's what you are. And you'll probably be fine. But as a kid who had these visions of being, Dennis DeYoung, or whatever, I kept having these confusing thoughts about, what the hell am I doing here? But it led me to a lot of very cool people, a lot of cool places, and so I certainly don't regret it.
Oh yeah, I think the coolest thing is, and we'll talk about it all, but is the whole Karate Kid connection to like what you're
doing now.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I know. No one would believe that.
It's unreal.
They even are like, what?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they care as much as I do, but I find that really fascinating. I sometimes I have to stop and think, there's something going on here. What's interesting about Survivor, you're talking about Survivor for the people.
Yeah.
Don't know. The thing about Survivor, a lot of people don't know this, or maybe some do. Some fans probably definitely know that, the fact that they were involved in the Rocky series is not surprising that they were involved in the Karate Kid. Yeah, Rocky 3. There you go. Now that's Rocky 4. That's
Rocky
Burning
4,
Heart.
Yeah, Burning Heart.
Burning Heart. Yeah, I'm thinking Eye of the Tiger is Rocky 3.
Record. That was a steal at a thrift store.
Really?
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that a shame? I walk into these vinyl stores and I'm picking up all these great records for $1 or $2. But a lot of people didn't know that John Avildsen was the director of Karate Kid. And John Avildsen was also the original director of Rocky 1. So there was a connection. Plus, Jerry Weintraub, who produced these movies, produced the Rocky series and produced the Karate Kid series. So he was trying to create a similar, he had so much success with Rocky, he wanted to create it with the Karate Kid and used a lot. Yeah. Bill Conti, who did the score for Karate Kid, same guy that wrote, Gonna Fly Now.
Yeah.
Da-da-da. He wrote all that. Holy crap. They used a lot. So when Survivor had such a big success with Eye of the Tiger, they were, and this is why it gets weird, because a lot of people will dig this. They were kind of forced to do the moment of truth. their record company, Scotti Brothers, I think it was at the time, was kind of said, no, we're gonna get you Survivor to do the theme song of Karate Kid. And when they got to the studio, they said, here's the song you'll be doing.
Oh.
They didn't write that song. And they were like, what? Are you kidding me? But what's interesting about The Moment of Truth is that I don't know how much you know about Survivor, but their first singer, Dave Bickler, who sang Eye of the Tiger, by the time they got to Karate Kid, The Moment of Truth, Dave was having throat problems, and they got a new singer, Jimmy Jamison.
Oh,
and
okay.
Jimmy is famous for singing, all the big hits off Vital Signs and beyond.
Yeah.
The Search Is Over and High on You and Can't Hold Back. That's all Jimmy. So all the big hits that came after the Eye of the Tiger was a different singer. But I wouldn't say his audition, but his first throw into Survivor was The Moment of Truth.
Oh my God.
They stuck him in there and said, well, here, sing this. We didn't write it. We have to do it. Hold on a second.
Oh, no problem, dude.
I just pulled my, sorry about that. Pulled my headphones out. So what's interesting is that the first song he sang on that was recorded and released was not a Survivor song. It's kind of interesting. And I'll give you a little side note about that. The song was written by Bill Conti, who is, the same guy that wrote all that stuff for Rocky, and Peter Beckett from Player.
Oh, wow.
Baby Come Back. The guy that wrote Baby Come Back. So those two guys must have got together and wrote a song and convinced whoever was in charge of the music supervising to get Survivor to play their song. So when I got in, when I finally started working with Survivor, I said, hey, when are we going to do Moment of Truth? What a cool thing. I was in that movie. They're like, don't bring it up again. We don't do that song. I'm like, the fans will love it. And we don't care. We don't do it. It's not ours. I'm like, okay.
And I think, correct me if I'm
don't bring it
wrong,
up again.
I think you're in the music video.
I am, yeah. Of the trailer. Yeah, I'm in the trailer of the movie.
Well,
yeah.
No, I think you're in the.
I'm sorry.
The Moment of Truth.
They used a piece of the trailer.
Yeah.
In their video for Moment of Truth. That's right. Yeah, and I'm in it. Yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, but still, it's pretty cool.
I mean, it's amazing, right? I mean, I didn't know these guys. 30 years later, I'm playing keyboards for them, and it's funny though because there's been other little near misses I had with them that I didn't know until I look back.
Oh, really?
When they were recording at Rumbo Recorders, which is used to be in Granada Hill. It's West Hills. And there used to be a recording studio there called Rumbo. And a lot of people it wasn't like on the radar for a lot of musicians, just certain ones, because it was way out of the way. It's in the valley. No one wanted to go to the valley. So they always had these, David Bowie recorded there.
Oh, wow.
And, Tom Petty, everybody did. But the guy that owned the recording studio was Daryl Dragon, Captain and Tennille.
Oh, wow.
And he owned the recording studio. And I knew Daryl because of a band I was in with a friend of mine. His name was Patrick Boland, who used to be in Pure Prairie League. And we had an original band. And he knew Daryl, and Daryl let us into the studio to record our demos for my original band in the 80s. And it was just around the same time that they were recording, I think it was Premonition, one of the Survivor records.
Yeah, wow.
And I didn't meet them, but who knows how many times I may have walked through the same door that they did just within days or hours. It was during that time period because we talked about it. And so I kind of put the dates together. So there's been a lot of like little weird things that, and the other thing is Daryl Dragon played on the album for Survivor.
Oh, really?
He played a lot of the keyboard parts. So there was just the weird connections, that you wouldn't think that they would be until you look back and put them together and get, I think I find that more fascinating than they do.
Yeah, maybe.
But
no, but that's
cares?
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about the music, but for Karate Kid itself, How long were you on set for that movie?
Actually, quite a long time.
Really?
Almost the whole movie. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Originally, I went in. It was a 2-week deal. It was supposed to be a walk in, walk out. You're gonna meet the director, John, and that was it. I met him. We did a little video thing. He talked to me on video. I didn't read any lines, and I got a call from my agent. Said, "You just booked 2 weeks on this movie that they're doing, Columbia Pictures." I went, "Oh, okay, great." And before I even got to set, days before that, it was changed. They extended they extended all of our contracts I worked on it from the almost 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. 4 to 6 months.
Oh my God.
It was originally, there was Frankie Avalon Jr., Tom Fridley, who I think his uncle is John Travolta. And there was Ken Daly and Israel Warby. Those guys were my friends. We were like a little pack.
Nice.
And they had us sort of developing our little thing. And then you had the Cobra Kai guys, Billy Zabka and all. There you go, and all the rest of them. And we didn't interact on purpose.
Oh, really? That's
they
cool.
kept a very adversarial atmosphere on the set. So coming from Hot Moves, which I did earlier that summer, which no direction, to really being the lowest man on the totem pole. I mean, they could have asked me to sweep the floor, and I thought, and not with my leg, I mean literally with a broom, and I thought that was probably going to be my job because I was so low on the totem pole, and it was for me, it was a very big production. It was Columbia Pictures, Jerry Weintraub. You had all these relatively well-known names. Not all of us were well-known, but the people they were connected to were all very connected in the industry.
Chad McQueen?
Chad McQueen, that's right. He was there. I know. And let me tell you, that guy is an animal.
He looks intense in the movie.
That's him.
Yeah.
He would throw these parties. Oh my God. I don't know how anyone survived. Yeah, he was crazy. There were always something going on. The one person that we never saw, and we all kind of came together on this, was Ralph. Ralph was sequestered in a Winnebago for the entire time until it was time for him to come out. And there was a reason for that. I learned later on that John Avildsen, he wanted an atmosphere that he didn't feel safe. He wanted it to make it so when he got in front of Billy
Zabka,
Zabka's character, he didn't want to feel like he had a camaraderie with them at all off stage.
Oh, wow.
And so it was almost, he had a method approach to how he wanted the actors to be. And as a young, fairly inexperienced guy, and being kind of small, and not knowing any karate or not knowing really anything, I felt very threatened on that. I felt like it was high school, man. I was like, I'm back in freaking high school. This is horrible. Get me off this job. And I kept bugging my agent. When's this going to end? This is horrible. But it wasn't horrible. It's just that was the job. It was a lot of. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm rambling here. Oh
no, dude, I love it. No, because you know what? I would never have known the formula. Hollywood does it all the time. And in the music industry, they do that. There's a formula. Oh my God, this works. So let's do Rocky, but with a 16-year-old kid from Jersey.
Exactly.
And it's crazy the way he sequestered him so he would feel that way, and the way they split you guys upset. So it's like the animosity can spill over.
Yeah, they wanted it brewing. They wanted it to brew. I remember when we got to the final fight scenes, the tournament, which was filmed at Cal State Northridge.
Oh, really?
It was before, in 1994, there was a huge earthquake out here. Yeah. You probably remember the 94 earthquake, the Northridge earthquake. It destroyed that building that we filmed in. It was the auditorium. And so it's not there anymore, but that's where it was filmed. And by the time we got to that point in the filming, the schedule, you really thought people were going to break some heads. I mean, people were mad at people. It was like there was, it was looking back, it was probably an understandable thing. And, people that were more experienced probably understood what was going on. But I was like, holy shit, I'm not talking to these guys. Everyone seemed angry,
Yeah.
But that was part of the atmosphere that he wanted to create, and he did a brilliant job of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, there was fear in Ralph's eyes when that was real.
I don't know if they did that for the other movies, but I interviewed the guy. I don't know if you ever saw the third one, but Sean Kanan, who played Mike Barnes, Karate's bad boy.
Right.
And in that movie, that's one thing, because what we do is our formula, for the most part, like I'll interview, like, you're so rad. And like, if anybody that talks to me isn't in a movie sequel, I still get it out. Like, but my formula is I interview folks that worked on movie sequels to get like behind the scenes kind of stuff. And then me and my buddy review it. Sometimes we have like a guest on. So when we watch that movie, because you watch a movie different when you're like taking notes and like,
of course,
almost dissecting it.
Yeah.
So when we watched the third one, and when I talked to Sean, I even said, I'm like, this whole movie, Ralph Macchio looks like scared. And then the third one, if you remember, it's really like three adults trying to kick the shit out of a 19-year-old kid. You have Martin Kove, who's like an alcoholic nut job.
Yeah.
Mike Barnes. And then, dude, I don't know what he was in after it. I don't think he was in much. So I tried to interview him, but the guy who played Terry Silver, dude, his character in that movie, if you haven't seen it in a while, it's like so worth it to go back. He's like this really rich guy with like 10 cars, huge house.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, dude. And he'll do anything to help out his buddy Martin Kove.
Yeah. Yeah, they're insane. It's an insane character. But you're right. There was I think you'll understand this. There was an innocence to the first Karate Kid.
Oh yeah.
That you're not going to get on those others.
I know.
In my opinion, I mean, the Cobra Kai series is special for other reasons.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because it's not trying to duplicate Karate Kid directly. Yeah. It's sort of a generational kind of view of it. Whereas the other Karate Kids, they were trying to plug in this same formula into the original film that the original film was successful with, and just kind of stamp them,
Yeah.
And I think there was a little bit of authenticity that we lost in 2 and 3, in my opinion.
Well, that happens with most. It's really hard. Every sequel that we've covered, it's really hard. It's very rare that the sequel is better than the original. It's like a very rare occurrence, but it's just cool this what direction they take sequels. Like we covered Jaws 2. I directed one of the guys that helped build the shark. And that movie, the shark becomes like almost like we said he was like Jason Voorhees, because in the movie you see the shark's POV like hunting people, and it's like sharks don't do that. He didn't do it in the first one, but
I guess they have to, they get a little carried away sometimes.
But
what I was saying about the original Karate Kid is that there was definitely an air of fear on the set, and that was absolutely created by the director.
That's awesome. So some of the cool things I saw on your little bio on your website, which was so awesome.
Thank you.
Was the composing. See, like when I interview people, if you didn't have a bio and just say you're like an IMDb or some other website, sometimes people don't have everything. So during the conversation, they'll be like, "Oh, I used to do blank," and it's like, "What?" But the fact that it's cool that you did all the composing on like those movies, like Carnal Crimes, Reunion, and all the game shows, and like. So how did that come about? How did you get approached for that?
Well, you're talking about 30 years of writing music. So
you did it that long?
No, I've been doing it.
Okay.
Some of that work is not that long ago, and some of it is a long time ago.
Oh, cool.
When I was after Karate Kid, I have to go back to the 80s to explain that. Explain the answer. Karate Kid was a very, very difficult movie for me, even though I ended up having almost no lines.
Yeah.
I mean, it was difficult for that reason. I went to my dressing room every day and there were redacted lines. And honestly, they just didn't need all of us. They had, 4 or 5 of us in a camp that they never explored. And, the movie would have been too long and unnecessary. So I get it. They had to make executive decisions, and certain people, I was being paid though to wait to see if I was going to work. And I know it sounds funny, but that's how the business can be sometimes. I was kind of basically not able to go on interviews. I mean, even if I did, I wouldn't be able to take the jobs. I was contracted to Columbia Pictures during that time period. So I mean, it wasn't that they weren't paying me well. It was great. It just was not what an 18-year-old wanted for him, for myself. I wanted to be moving forward, and I felt like I was not. So Karate Kid was difficult. And when it was over, when I finally got let out of my contract, it was a year of acting. I did a few other walk-ons on some TV shows that aren't in the bio. Not that you mentioned that. And I did a few things, and the whole year was just really cool. But by the time the Karate Kid ended, it was December, I think, of '83.
Wow.
And I looked around. I was out of work, obviously, and unemployed. And I was thinking, well, now what? So I pushed my agent to get me, whatever I could get. And at this point, I was thinking pilot season, and when I did working with Hot Moves, I knew like a lot of people from, Michael J. Fox and all those guys. I used to hang out with those guys because the people I worked with on Hot Moves were in High School USA, which was
nice.
one of his first movies. And so, I knew Todd Bridges. I knew all those people just from hanging out. They were in my acting classes, and I knew them. So I thought, okay, I'll keep doing this. I'll get a sitcom, or I'll get something, and I'll be able to pay the bills. That'd be great. And then and I wasn't getting any work, and I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be broke, I might as well be broke doing what I love to do, because I'm not even sure I can do this, because I haven't really gotten a part that can test me yet, So I looked around. I said, well, let's see. When was the last time I performed? When was the last time I put a guitar in my hands? And I think I was 19, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna start a band and get going. And so I put all my energy into music. And during that time period, I started bands, and a few years into doing my own bands, I got a publishing deal with A&M. Actually, it was Almo Irving, which was the publishing company for A&M Records, which was later purchased by Rondor. So now it's Rondor. But at the time, Polygram purchased their publishing. So I ended up losing the publishing deal. But that's another story. But so I had a publishing deal, and I was a staff writer at A&M for a very short period of time. And it taught me that there's ways to make money, other than just getting up on stage. And that's when I started pursuing films and TV work. And again, remember we were talking about connections? Yeah. That first connection that got me the Roxy shows, that got me on the Merv Griffin Show. Well, that guy, who was the road manager for Seals and Crofts, he knew a lot of people in the business. So I would talk to him, and we did, he was producing something called Swayze Dancing, which was back in those days, you didn't have Netflix, you didn't have streaming, you had the home video market. Yes. Remember that? And so you could go to like a Blockbuster. The best. God, I sound old. Or, or a Warehouse Records or something, and you could rent a video. And not all the videos were made by studios. They were individuals or small production companies. Yeah. Anyway, he was producing not Patrick Swayze, But get this, Patrick Swayze's mom, who taught Patrick Swayze how to dance, wanted to capitalize on Swayze on Dirty Dancing.
Oh my
so
God, dude.
Somehow he convinced her, not this guy Mark Lemkin, convinced Patrick's mother, who was an older lady at this point. She was probably in her 60s, a really strong Texas drawl. I mean, she was the antithesis of a seasoned looking type of someone you'd put in a movie. She was very raw and rough, and it was a very low budget thing. Anyway, he asked if I wanted to write music to it. So that's how I started that. And
oh my God, what kind of music did you write? Like dance kind of too?
Yeah, just they didn't have a budget to license anything. So they needed some schmuck that they could pay almost nothing for that would, knock off some songs, or make it sound like, I don't know, Tiffany or something.
Oh, that's what you do? You just like hear
at that
a song
time
and like,
well, no, you would get the way a lot of that works is it works the same way now is it's called temp tracks. So when they're editing a track, they'll put a song in that they can't either afford or it's not available to license. Same thing happened with The Eye of the Tiger, with Another One Bites the Dust. That was the temp track, and they didn't get the licensing for it. Well, that happens all the way down the line. Doesn't matter the size of the production. And so they had, they would say, well, we need a piece that sounds like X, or we needed a piece that sounds like this person. And so you would write something inspired by those references so they would match the edits. That's just typical. That's pretty normal.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's how I got into realizing I could do more music. So that led me to a lot of home video productions, because the company that was putting it together, I walked in there and said, hey, I'm doing the music for your production here. What else you got? And they said, well, we don't have much budget. I said, I'm broke. I'll just give me anything. And so they just laid it out. I said, well, we got this movie coming up next month. We got this one. There was, God, if I go back and think, it was the time when, the Jane Fonda workout videos were popular.
Yeah.
There was, what was his name? I want to say Dirk Benedict, or there was an actor that was on the A-Team, Dirk something.
Oh, I can't think of his last name, but I know you're talking about.
There were four guys of the A-Team. Mr. T and what's his,
I'm guessing it'd be Face. Was that guy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, he had a workout video. I did the music to that. I never met these people. I just was handed the video and say, write music. I did a bunch of beauty pageants, that Vegas beauty pageants that some companies were putting, just whatever, whatever. It didn't matter. I was a paycheck, and it was real music, and that's all I cared about. So that's what I was doing, that concurrently while I was playing in bands in LA. Yeah. So I was doing both. And guess what? It's never stopped. I do that. I'm doing the same thing I did, except with the exception of, traveling with a national act.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. But other than that, I'm still in bands right now. I'm still performing everywhere I can, and I'm still trying to write music for productions.
That's awesome, man.
My life hasn't changed a lot.
What were some of because you were in a bunch of bands, what were some of and you started a lot of the bands, right?
Yeah, they were my creations. Yeah.
Cool.
I was the singer.
What were some of the best names?
I wouldn't call them great names.
To you, they're still your babies.
Yeah. Well, wait, you mean songs or band?
No, about like the name of the bands.
Oh, The Reach was one of them. That was back when we were influenced by The Fix.
Oh, okay.
The Reach. But actually, that was a cool band. Like I said, a gentleman named Patrick Bolin, who these guys were all older than me. I was like 21, and they were in their 30s. So I thought they were like, oh my God, these guys are old, but this will be all right. But they had huge resumes. Patrick worked with Kenny Rogers, and he was in Pure Prairie League for a while, and did a lot of national, played guitar for a lot of national guys. And then I can't remember the drummer's name, but he toured with the Beach Boys for some period of time.
Oh, wow.
So we had some like really talented guys
Yeah.
in the band, and that band didn't make it. And then actually what happened was I was in the band. It was doing fine. We recorded with Daryl Dragon at his studio, all that stuff. And A&M Records saw me at Michelli's. It was my birthday. And I was asked to get up and sing a song. So I got up and I sat down at the piano and I played a ballad. And I went back, and everybody claps, but I went back and sat down with my friends back, and embarrassingly, and somebody, I swear it's a Hollywood moment. Someone walks up to my table, plops a card down on the table. And I look at it and it says A&M Records. And they said, give us a call. I'm like, okay. I was, really? All right. So that's how that happened. And I called them, and it was a publishing deal. They wanted to offer me a publishing deal. That's how that thing came about.
Yeah.
And it was because of that publishing deal that the band broke up. They didn't want the band. They wanted the guy that was singing and writing the songs.
Yeah.
Because, that's just the way, it went. So we went our separate ways. When Polygram purchased Elmer Irving, it destroyed my world, because everybody on the roster that wasn't a hit songwriter or a hit songwriter yet was being let go. They were just, they were letting everyone loose. They were just cutting people loose left and right. And I was one of the casualties of that. I didn't have a track record yet. I wasn't there long enough to get that. So I was floundering, and I went on my merry way and decided to put together another band. And that was the Jeffrey Bryan Band.
Oh, nice.
But what's interesting about the Jeffrey Bryan Band was, yes, it was all my own music. I had no other people to compete with respect to like Patrick and I were sort of the two driving forces of the Reach, whereas the Jeffrey Bryan Band was all about me. So, it wasn't designed that way. It was just, I put it together, and the guys I was able to find were more my age and less knowledgeable than the guys previously. So it was like, Jeff, where are we playing? Where are we doing? So I ended up booking the band. I ended up writing all the songs. I did everything. I worked with, I found this guitar player. His name's Doug Rappaport. And Doug was phenomenal guitar player. And he was about 20. I was about 24, 25. He was probably a few years younger than me. And, I considered him a baby. But he was this crazy, amazing guitar player. And he went on to play with, my mind's going, can't even think of his name right now. It'll come to me. Anyway, went on to play with some really famous guys for like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And why can't I think of his name? You know him. His brother died recently. He's albino. I can't remember his name. How funny. Whatever. Anyhow, he had the song Frankenstein. Dun, 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 dun. Why can't I think of
Alice
his name?
Cooper?
No.
Oh.
But someone in that someone. It doesn't matter. It's not about me anyhow.
Yeah.
So, but my point is I always had these really, interesting people that either were around me or I discovered they were interesting after I wasn't around.
Yeah.
Years later, God, it's going to bug me now. Edgar Winter. Oh, I have no idea. Yeah, he's Edgar Winter's guitar player. I mean, he's very well known in guitar circles as, a guitar god. Oh, and I was in a band with him when he was, just starting out. In the Jeffrey Bryan Band. So, I mean, I had so many bands. So it was Jeffrey Bryan Band. There was Live and Die, which did. we used to play at FM station all the time. Anyone from LA would love hearing that. I mean, FM station.
Yeah, that was like a big bar or club.
Well, Filthy McNasty owned it. So that's all you need to know, right? The guy's name was Filthy McNasty.
Jesus.
He's famous. He owned a whole bunch of different properties in LA in the heyday in the 70s for him. But FM station was kind of a rockin' place, and it was on Lancashire and in the Valley, and it was famous as the Roxy at one point.
Yeah.
And we used to play there like all the time. And Coconut Teaser on Sunset was another one. So I played but a band that I was in for quite a long time had, in my opinion, the shittiest name of all, Sun Lions. Believe it or not, sounds like a football team.
Yeah.
I have no idea how we ended up on that name, but that band was really good. We put out 2 records, and we came real close to getting some major things. Had a lot of college radio play. This was in the 90s, so there still was no internet. It wasn't there was nowhere you had to literally do a show and sell records and physical records. I mean, it's such a weird world right now compared to what I came from.
Oh, I know.
But so I had many bands, and I continued to play in all these bands. And all the while I was developing my chops, playing keys and guitar. But keyboards has always been extremely important to my development. And, it's sort of my love. It's kind of where, I can sit down at a piano and just get lost for 2 hours.
That's awesome.
So that's so that brings us to you asked me.
Yeah. No, so what I was going to say is, so how'd that come about? So that was 2017. You auditioned for Survivor?
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah. I mean, basically, I've got all these cool stories. I could tell you, shit more cool stories, shitloads of them. But this is not a cool story. The Survivor thing is just, I have no idea. I got an email. That's about as cool as it gets. I got an email. It said, "Do you want to play for Survivor?" And I looked at the email one day, and I said to my wife, "Someone lied. What was this, a joke?" Because who just writes, "Would you want to play keyboards for Survivor?" But then I looked at the email address, and it was from Irving Azoff's office.
Oh wow!
And so I was like, "It's got to be something to this." I looked them up. They had a keyboard player. I actually know him. I knew the guy. I knew he's a local keyboard player in LA. And so I was like, "What's going on here?" So I answered back finally, and it turned out that they were looking for another keyboard player, and we just went on from there. They flew me out to Chicago, and we played. And actually, part of what they wanted, if Frankie Sullivan, who wrote Eye of the Tiger, wrote all that great stuff with Jim Peterick, he wanted to, at that time, make sure that who he was bringing in was a writer and not just a player. So I think that was attractive to them. And all my years of obviously writing music, I was right perfect for that. It was a good fit in that respect.
Yeah.
But I till this day, I never asked them how they got my name because I thought it didn't look good. So I said, screw it. But I often think about it. I'm playing in LA so often and everywhere else. I play all over the country with different bands that I'm in now. They're not necessarily, huge names or famous, but they work a lot, and I work a lot. So, or was before all this. And it's very possible that they came across me through people I knew or have known or what, but unfortunately I don't really have a great story. The real story
in 20, 30 years, that could be a rad story when emails like to the wayside and they're like, dude, you got an email?
Right. Instead of just getting it from the cloud directly into my brain. Yeah.
So is there one thing that was pretty cool you mentioned before, and I wanted to tie it in, but you said like you didn't know until later in life like what you liked about going on the stage. Do you still to this day get like, I'm guessing you mean like the rush from it, being on stage in front of people? There's nervous energy, and that nervous energy can be utilized negatively or positively. Oh yeah.
Depending on how you direct it. And so I'm not the only one that has said this, but I think it's pretty appropriate, is that if you're not nervous when you get on stage, you probably shouldn't be getting on stage.
Oh, totally, man.
There's a certain anxiety that you have to deal with, which isn't a bad thing if you know how to harness it, because it's that energy that puts you on a pin, head of a pin, that makes you very sharp. And so yeah, I guess I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie for performing. I'm not a bungee jumper.
Good.
I'm not going to do handstands on a chopper. That's just not me. But getting on stage is my bungee jump, I guess, for me. It's what I need to do. And during this lockdown period, it's the first time in my life that a weekend had gone by that I didn't get on a stage.
Yeah, that is true. That's wild.
I mean, I never thought about it in those terms, but my life is living from stage to stage, from show to show, come home, work on some music, rehearse, travel to a show. That's all I do. That's what I've been doing for 20 years.
Yeah.
I can't do it right now. And I'm freaking out. I mean, I'm literally, I don't know what to do with myself. You know, it's hard.
Are you writing a lot? Were you able to, obviously we're 3 months in now. Are you finally able to get into a routine being home, or is it still weird? No, not what I want, you know, obviously. I mean, every day I keep thinking it's, I'm going to wake up from this nightmare, but I mean, it's not like, there are people that have it far worse. We're not sick, fortunately. And we're not on the streets. So, I mean, I have to be careful. It's a very serious problem that we have right now. And I'm fortunate that at least I have my studio and I can still create. Yeah. So I'm doing the best to make lemonade out of lemons. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are. I think we're going to see a lot of really good stuff from talented people come out of this period. Who knows what we'll see or how, but I play a lot. I'm recording little videos I put up on my Facebook page, and oh sweet, I
try to make it like a performance, and then I still have other projects and bands that I'm working with. We're actually starting to prepare to go back out.
Oh yeah.
What's interesting about this COVID situation is that big national acts that are usually being booked in conjunction with like Live Nation, and some of these big concert promoters, those concerts aren't coming back. Like Survivor right now, we're done for the year. Yeah, we had a whole year booked. In fact, I was about to board a plane before I got a call in March. It said we're not doing this gig. I didn't know I was going to stay home. I just knew we were canceling the gig. Yeah. And so I turned around, came home, and didn't go back out for 3 months. And then, talking to them, they basically, they're shut down. And a lot of the bigger acts are shut down. But some of the smaller acts, the ones that play casinos and some of the mid-size rooms and some of the outdoor shows, they're going to come back a lot quicker, just because it's it's probably less dangerous in their calculation. So I'm preparing to go out with a couple bands that I play with now that I'm looking forward to. So that's cool. Good. Yeah.
You've played everywhere, I'm sure. Is there like a favorite venue or city that you've played in?
Well, I'm really partial to LA.
Yeah, well,
it's my hometown, and I grew up, at a time when a lot of really iconic places I got to be in. I got to play at Gazzari's, the Troubadour, Club Lingerie, the Viper Room, which used to be called the El Centro.
Oh wow!
And so those were my homes, And so I don't want to see them closing. I don't want to see them. And I know the Troubadour's having trouble.
Yeah, a lot of places
there's a lot of real famous iconic places that are in danger. I think personally, to answer your question though, for me, I like the more intimate places. I mean, I've played, in front of 30,000 people, and you don't, it's not the same. It's more exciting to play for 500 people or 1,000 people. It really is. Yeah, it's exciting when you're walking on stage and you see, a throng of people, but that goes away real fast when you start to play, because you really can't see beyond maybe 15, 20 rows.
True, yeah.
Beyond that, it just looks like water, a sea of heads, So you don't really connect with the way you connect with that kind of an audience is different. It's an almost internal thing, and you kind of project it everywhere. Whereas in an more intimate setting, you can see smiles, you can see people singing, you can kind of, and that interaction is what I think most musicians crave anyway. So, one of my, I love the Roxy. There's a few small places that we played in Chicago that are really, really nice that we played. You probably wouldn't, they're not famous places, but just the smaller venue rooms that we did.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome. Do you remember the first time that you played like in front of a lot of people, like you coming out in the crowd, just all those people?
Yeah, but I was so young. My first time on stage was probably in front of 5,000 people.
Oh my God.
So playing the Hungry Tiger to 5 was odd, obviously it became normal because, but yeah, I sang in front of a congregation. I was singing at my bar mitzvah. Okay. I wasn't a singer at the time, but the cantor, his name is Nate Lamb, and he's an interesting guy. You should look him up. Lam. Cantor Nate Lamb was known as, and I didn't know this growing up. I knew this growing up, but I didn't know it at the time. That's what I meant. He was considered to be the singing teacher to the stars.
Oh my God.
He had a side hustle at the temple teaching major actors like John Travolta and people like that how to sing.
Oh my God.
It was Stephen S. Weiss. So it was kind of had a very affluent congregation, and a lot of Hollywood people went to this particular temple. So I sang, I was 13. It was time to kind of learn how to sing these Torah scriptures. I'm not a religious person. None of that was interesting to me, but the music part of it was.
Yeah.
And so I got to sing. So I said, all right, whatever. So I learned this part and I got up, and during these kind of events, like a high holidays ceremony, it's a religious ceremony. It's not, stand up and clap and do a standing ovation. Yeah. And I got one. And I guess the reason why is that I'm a pretty in stature. I'm not real tall, So, and at 13, I was probably, the size of I was 6 inches. I was a really small kid, but I had a voice that could project all the way to the back of the room. And I think that just floored people. And I could sing in tune too. So it was even more powerful. So I've always been able to harness that energy. And so my first experiences were always in front of a lot of people. So I don't know if you were asking me if it made me nervous to be in front of a lot of people. No, being on stage does not make me nervous.
No, it seems like you loved it, like right from the beginning, like you like thrived from it.
Yeah, I do. Now, I will tell you that getting on stage is harder than being on stage, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
especially, I'm not ashamed to admit it, especially with Survivor. There's a certain, when you're doing your own music, you have a loyalty to yourself and to the fans if they know the music. But when you're dealing with a legacy such as Survivor, a 35-year legacy that I feel like a steward of their material. I didn't write it. I'm not there. The people aren't there for Jeff, as much as I'd like to believe they are. They are not. They're there to hear "Eye of the Tiger." They hear, "High on You." They want to hear those songs, and so there's a little bit of, am I going to let them down?
Yeah.
And so that little bit of nervousness can be uncomfortable. But once I'm on stage and I sit down, and what makes me at ease is touching this.
Yeah.
As soon as I touch this, it's like some kind of magical force, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, dude, this has been so awesome, man.
I'm having fun. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. One thing I like to ask people before I let them go is, obviously you were doing music for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you thought you could have done, like before music, or was there any other passions that you had?
Yeah, you got to remember, I discovered music at about 12 years old.
I know, yeah.
And I didn't decide to be a singer or a musician until a whole 2 years later. So yeah, I was pretty young the whole time. So, but before that, I still do. I have an interest in science. I was always very science minded. I wasn't very good at math, but I like to theorize and conceptualize. I was always interested I always thought I was probably going to end up some kind of theoretical science of some kind. I used to read a lot about, quantum mechanics and stuff like that. So I was always interested in that. I don't know if that would have become a passion for me or not. Astronomy was a big hobby of mine when I was really young. I had a telescope, and I couldn't wait to just, see what I could see and discover. So I've always been very, and I've always been really electronically inclined too. I like to tinker with stuff, and, like my Rhodes and my Wurlitzer, I like to
awesome.
mess around with it. And so I think I probably would have been somewhere in the science end of things.
That's awesome. I always love asking people that, like, no matter what they do, act, direct, behind the scenes, musician. And it's always cool to hear, especially when they found something so young. Sometimes it's like, I wanted to be a doctor, and they were like 10 years old. But then after that, dude, they just started acting. So like, that goes out the window. But dude, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm so happy.
Thank you for having me.
Reached out to me. But dude, your stories and just everything about you is so cool, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I've done a few podcasts that are just audio, but I like seeing who I'm talking to. It's kind of
you know what? I always did audio because when I started this, I never thought somebody would talk to me. So like in the beginning, I sent out a bunch of emails to like agents and stuff, and there was like a few people that bit. And then the first one I did, we did video, but it wasn't like I said like, hey, we're doing video. But now flash forward like a year later, I've seen that people enjoy video a lot more. So I'm doing video now.
I would think that, with what it looks like, a lot of your guests are actors and actresses.
Yeah.
They probably prefer this venue.
No, they do. No, they do. But I never was going to do video.
Just knowing how vain they are. I know I am. So,
No, but just doing the video is like, in my head, I'm like, all right, so I got to put it on podcast. Then I got to like edit a video and put that on YouTube, cut that. So I'm like, man, I got a daughter. I'm in school. I work full time. And I'm like, but now I'm like, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's cool. You're right. The connection with people, like talking to people is awesome, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you being interested.
Thanks for telling me your story. It was cool. And next time Survivor, I feel like Survivor was going to come to Jersey this year. If I'm right?
We were supposed to Connecticut. I don't recall a Jersey.
Connecticut. You guys are going to be, because I'm in tri-state area, so we always get like whatever comes up. So probably the casino out there. No.
Yeah, there's I forgot the
Foxwoods.
Foxwoods.
Yeah.
That's Connecticut, right?
Yeah, it's not too far from me.
Or I don't know if it's Connecticut, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah. We were in Seneca Falls not too long ago.
Oh, okay, New York,
which is still far from Jersey, but.
Yeah, not too far. That's out by like the Baseball Hall of Fame, like out that way. Cooperstown.
It's not far from Niagara Falls, I think.
I got married there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, Jeffrey, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the night. Hopefully,
my pleasure, Doug.
I don't know when this is going to be over, but hopefully you can get back on stage and get that rush.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I
Yeah, I'll
enjoyed it.
reach out. I'll probably put this out in the next few weeks, and I'll definitely let you know beforehand and send you everything.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Doug.
Sweet,
Have a
man.
great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Peace out, man.
All right.
Bye. Man, wasn't Jeffrey awesome? He was so cool. It's like a guy I can talk to for hours, especially just he does like that grueling job. He's going from city to city. He's just rocking out. For him right now, he even said this is like something he's never done before. He's never not worked. So make sure I'm going to put his website in the episode notes, or if you're watching this, in the YouTube notes, and you'll be able to check out his website to see all the stuff that he's worked on. But dude, the behind the scenes on Karate Kid, you can't get that anywhere else. Well, I guess maybe if you're at a Ralph Macchio like dinner party or Martin Cove, maybe, but not as cool as this, because this isn't a main character. He's really, when I talk to people that are smaller parts in some of these big movies, maybe later on they go on to do bigger things, their eyes are more wide open because they see it all. So yeah, so make sure you check him out, and don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast, follow us on all social media at Sequels Only, and don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.